Hello, welcome to Making Photos. I'm Ian Butterfield, and welcome to this feedback video. I used to do these feedback sessions as part of my weekly live stream. As I've changed the format of what I do on a Sunday night now, I just wanted to slot one of these in during the week, just to give feedback to some of the images which have been uploaded to my Facebook group during the week. Now, if you're not familiar with the Facebook group, there's a link down below, and it's a group where people can share their images for feedback or just to show them off and ask questions, and it works hand in hand with the YouTube channel. So I do encourage you to join the Facebook group as well as be active here on YouTube. So I would prefer, when doing feedback, to actually have the original files rather than me just culling them from the Facebook group, although I am happy to take them from the Facebook group. I can do better feedback if I've got them as large files. And if you want to send me the large files, the best way is via WeTransfer, and to send them to the email address which is on the screen now, feedback@makingphotos.co.uk. And hopefully in a couple of weeks' time I'll be able to do another one of these with some of your images. So please let me have your images and I'll give you some feedback. Right, let's head over to Lightroom. I'll give feedback to the 4 people who've submitted images for this video. This one is from Sonia Ooms, and this is a street scene from Derby, if I've pronounced that right, Sonia, in Belgium. Interesting shot. It looks better full screen than it did smaller on Facebook. Some nice detail in there. I think one of the things that attracted you to it was the fact that it's all one colour except for the odd little bits of detail in there. For me, that's not really working that well. I like that variance. It doesn't have to be a variance in colour, but the texture and the contrast is the same throughout it. And it's actually quite tricky to see what's the focal point on here. If it's the sign over on this one side here, it kind of lacks something for me. I know it's a nice shot, there's a lot there, but it lacks a focal point, I think, is the interesting bit's right in the middle. I don't know whether a tighter crop might help with this. Certainly want to keep the blue sign. Now, I know this is going to throw away a whole load of resolution, but something like that I think works better for it, where the little bit of blue is more prominent. It's on one side like a framing device. It now feels as though we're being led through the scene with that. Now, I've cropped that in post-production. You might have the resolution to do that, but you're throwing away an awful lot of pixels to come in that tight on a shot. Something that you could have done in camera with a longer lens on there to create that kind of effect. Andy, your first one of the set. I know you pointed to a video for this, but the video I could find didn't appear to have this particular image in it. This is an intriguing shot with the colours on there, and I like the tree leaning in. You've chosen a square crop with it. What I don't like is the colour balance down here. I'm assuming that is snow and ice on there, but it's very, very blue. Now, this is one of those problem sort of shots where you've got 2 different lights. You've got the daylight coming in onto the hills and the shadow over here. So you are going to get 2 different white balances on there. But I do wonder whether we can do something with that. First of all, I want to see whether it is possible to warm this up in the foreground a little bit. And I think that's more pleasing in the foreground. I think it still keeps the bluey coldness of it. Now, whether we've gone too far with the upper section is debatable. Now we have to solve the problem of the colours on the background. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to go in and use a linear gradient, and let's just reset everything to start with, and I'm going to cool down and just put that in on here, and then just keep cooling that back to retain the sort of colours that we had before on there. Now, the problem we've got with this is the tree, because part of it's obviously affected by it. So what we need to do is subtract from that gradient, and I am going to use a luminance mask to do it. And by just bringing that down, if I put show luminance mask, we can see the bits which it doesn't affect. I just bring this down. We've got those black areas aren't affected by it, so take that off. And that hopefully has solved that particular issue on there. So let's just come out of that. And if I do a before and after, we can see effectively we've just affected a little bit of the sky. The orange has remained more or less the same colour as before, but we've brought up the detail so it's not quite so blue in the foreground on there. So I hope that helps on that one for you, Andy. Moving on, Richard Lovelock, Horror Night, your first one of the set on here. Yeah, we've got a lot of bunged up blacks on this. So it's a little bit underexposed, and now with this being a JPEG, there's not a lot I can do about sort of trying to recover those shadows, because once they're gone with it. I do like the pose. I like the idea of the shadow and the expression. I'd perhaps like to see a little bit more detail around here on that, which could be achieved probably with a wide fill light coming in from this side. Not too much, because we don't want to create an extra shadow or lose the shadows which are there. So it would be a very low powered, very soft, so an umbrella fill light, just to add a little bit on that. The alternative might be a little bit of rim lighting coming in from the back here, just to pick out an edge. And again, if you flag it enough, you might just avoid losing her shadow, because in fact, I'm not too worried about losing her shadow, but obviously we don't want to lose the Jack the Ripper shadow over there. But good shot. I would tighten the crop a little bit with it. The bottom's not adding much to it, so I think that's slightly stronger for doing that as well. Moving on, yeah, Richard's second one from the same shoot. Again, similar problem with the lighting. We're losing into the shadows there. I'd like to see a rim light. You know that I'm a big fan of rim lighting, use it all the time. Just don't like this hat that's disappearing into the background there. Don't know whether it's not quite bunged up. We might be able to do something with this. Bring this up just enough on there, and I think that might be just enough to do it, to sort of see that detail that's in there. But yeah, a good shot, just needs that little extra detail in the shadows, and that might just be bringing up in post-production to do that on there. Just a bit of an experiment on the crop, to something there like that. That might work for it as well. So again, it won't show the crop, but before and after, just to bring out that little bit of detail. If you want the darkness, and the darkness is good, then a rim light would help with that. Andy's second one on here. Again, nice shot. We had a little bit of a discussion online about this one. I would say lower down with it. I know you were fighting the tide on this one, just to get a little bit more foreground interest with the pebbles on that shot. It just lacks something in the foreground for that image. I did ask whether it was a vertical shot, because if it was vertical and cropped, a little bit more sky might have helped with it. But interesting image. Not one of your best, Andy. I think you would admit that as well. But it's an okay image. Right, Nick, thank you for joining the group and sharing some of your images. I know this was in connection with promoting a YouTube video that you'd posted. I'll pop the link down below in the description on this. Now, this, I think, is the image of the shot with it. I know we've only got the compressed Facebook version here, but it was a low light shoot with this fiber optic whip, which I rather like the effects of it. Now, this is the standout shot for me. It's really sharp. Just watch the focus point, because the sharpest bit seems to be the lips. So the eye's not bad with it, but it's slightly softer than the lips on there. So just watch where you're focusing. I know it can be tricky in low light, doing low light photography on there. But that's definitely the standout shot of the ones that you uploaded. I love the colour contrast that you've chosen. I know this was done with available lighting or always on lighting on there to give the colour and to be able to get the whip effect. Now I just want to move on to one of the others I've selected. I've got a couple of points to make about this one, Nick. I know you hastily uploaded the 4 images after I commented about your first post being a self-promotional one, which I am very happy for you to share your videos on there. I think they are helpful to the group, but I do like people to be contributing, and that's not just sharing images, but just commenting and giving feedback to other people within the group as well, so that everybody can benefit. Now, I know, as I said, this was a hasty upload from you, but one thing to keep in mind, when you share a set of 4 images, or 10 images, or however many, people will look through, and typically you will get judged on the worst image in the group. And I don't know whether this was the worst image, but I want to pick up on this, because quite a few of the images weren't quite there. There's one we talked about online where it wasn't the right colour lighting on the face, and I know it was a difficult shoot. I know you were trying to do the behind the scenes and you were trying to do all that. But when you come to share your images, it's better to share fewer and better than more and not so good. And I think the expression on your model's face here just really doesn't work. It's a look of horror. You can't really see what this whip is. We've got some others that you uploaded where it is very clear what it is. But this one, as an image by itself, it doesn't work. The lighting's not bad on the face. Don't like the hair over the eyes. This would have been a reject in my book. I would have edited this one out from the set. You'd have been better just posting 1 or 2 really good images than including more just for the sake of it. So just think a little bit about self-editing with your images then, Nick. But it was an interesting video to watch, an interesting shoot, and some interesting techniques. And I wouldn't mind trying to get hold of one of these light whips, as you referred to it, for some work here in the studio. It would be nice to experiment with that. So you've inspired me. Thank you for that. And do keep sharing your work with the group. It would be nice to have your thoughts on other people's work as well. So on to Sonia's second image. I'm just going to nip over to Facebook so that I can read out the description of this one. And Sonia writes, this is Derby Castle, known locally as Chateau de Derby, lies within the town of the same name in the province of Luxembourg in the Wallonia region of Belgium. Interesting building. I think you may have shared some images of this previously. Lovely and sharp. I like the detail you've brought out in the sky on there. That's worked nicely. What I would say for this is about correcting the verticals. I know I say this a lot about correcting the verticals, but I think it's worth having a go with this one. I'm going to do it on the sliders because I only want a slight correction on here just to help it a little bit. Maybe what it needs is a little rotate to go with it. Something like that. Yeah, that's looking a bit more realistic. I've kept a little bit of that converging verticals in because sometimes that just helps it look a little bit more realistic. So bring that down, and now to crop it, get rid of the white areas. I tend to do this manually rather than allowing it to do it automatically, because sometimes it doesn't quite give the effect I want on the crop. It chooses slightly different positions. So yeah, I would just do that. There's before and after with it. It's subtle, but it does help. But the processing on there is really good. Interesting subject. Nice to have a little bit of foreground interest in there. So that was the only thing I would do, that slight tweak to the converging verticals. That's the full set for this video. So just to say again, if you found this helpful and you want me to go through some of your images, then please either submit them to the Facebook group, or even better, email them to feedback@makingphotos.co.uk, and I'll see you in the next video. And until then, keep making great photos. Bye for now.